Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Future is Bilingual podcast. My name is Heather, and I'm your host. Today's episode is an interview I did with Ina this past Sunday, and I've been working really hard all week to get it edited and ready to be published in time with her book campaign. So her book is called Trilingual Me, Moi Trilingue, and we're going to hear all about it during the episode. But if you are interested, you can look her up on Instagram and on Facebook. Looking up one of those titles should bring you to her page. Or you can go to the show notes, and I've put links there to make it easy. So just a quick shameless plug. Ina and I are very similar. We are both French teachers, albeit at different levels, and we both live in English-dominant societies. And we both miss having intellectual conversations in French or conversations with people who are not our students. So we've decided to start some Zoom calls just for fun. And we've invited the Instagram community, and we've got some feedback already. And we would love to invite anyone listening to this podcast to come join us. The first one is going to be Sunday, November 29th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you're going to have to see what time that would be for your time zone. But if you want to have more information, come find me on Instagram. The Future is Bilingual, one word. And I'll be publishing more information there, like the code and the password and things like that to get into the Zoom call, because we do want to make it safe. So without further ado, let's get to my interview with Ina. Welcome, Ina.
Thank you so much for having me on. Hi, Heather.
Hi, it's great to have you. Thank you for being willing to talk. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, so bonjour, hello. My name is Ina Ficatina. I'm 28 years old. I'm an elementary core French teacher in Toronto, Canada, and I'm the author of Trilingual Me, Moi Trilingue, my first dual language book for children.
That's so wonderful. And what are your three languages?
I'm proud to be trilingual. I speak Russian, English, and French fluently. My first language is Russian, and English and French are my second and third languages. My periods of active acquisition were during my childhood, and I consider English to be my dominant language.
Okay. And what age did you start to learn English and French?
I started learning English when I was 7 years old. I immigrated to Canada when I was 7 with my parents, and I had to learn English because this is the language that is spoken here, and I didn't know any English at all when I came. And about 6 months into learning English and my new life in Canada, I started learning French at school as part of the core French program. So I was learning English and French at the same time, and I started learning both when I was 7, 8 years old.
Wow. Now, did you find that difficult?
I did. It was really challenging. I found it very frustrating not to be able to communicate, especially because of I had a lot of challenges with my speech development when I was a child, and I had trouble learning my first language as well. So after finally being able to overcome all the challenges with that and being able to speak Russian, I now had to face a new challenge with the immigration and learning not only one but two languages. So it was very, very challenging, but I overcame those challenges with a lot of support from my family, my teachers. So I'm very happy to share my story with you today and tell you all about it.
Can you tell me more about the difficulty you had?
Yes, absolutely. So my language acquisition story began on the day that I was born. When I was born in Moscow, I had a difficult birth, and I was born with a brain hemorrhage, which caused problems with my speech development in my early childhood. I had great challenges learning my mother tongue. And for the first 5 years of my life, I couldn't speak clearly, and it was very difficult to understand me. Even now, as an adult, looking back to the videotapes my parents took of me when I was about 4 or 5 years old, it's very difficult to understand what I am saying. So that I felt that I was normal. There was nothing wrong with the way that I spoke. But it's very, very clear that I had difficulties with my speech. And I had a very supportive family. I'm the only child in the family. I had a very dedicated oral language pathologist that I spent a lot of time with in my early childhood.
What age did they start working with you? Because I know in the US, we have like free support, but it stops at age 3. So a lot of parents try.
Yes,
It's called early intervention.
That's right.
They'll try
I'm
and
not sure
detect it.
exactly the ages, but I know it was before kindergarten.
Mhm.
I am living proof that early intervention works, and any students, any parents of students that I teach, whenever I hear that there might be something going on with their speech, if I can hear it, I definitely, I tell the parents, don't wait. There are so many talented speech language pathologists that will be able to help your child. So please, if you're noticing something, even if you're not sure, take your child to a speech language pathologist and have them do a consultation, have them listen to your child's speech, and then hear it from the specialist. What do they think that you should do? Because it is so important to take action and to do it as early as possible.
Yes, yeah, that's such good advice, and it's definitely needed. I think, all of us as parents, we might understand our kids because we're the ones around them 24/7. So I think it's never too early. Like I said, in the US, it goes until 3, and then I believe you have to pay for it. So the idea is to get that intervention as early as possible. Much more complicated.
So when I finished with the speech language pathologist, I remember my biggest challenge, especially because my first language was Russian, was rolling my R. So in English, the letter R, we don't roll our tongue in order to say it. But in Russian, the letter R, you have to roll your tongue in order to be able to say it. And I'm not able to roll my tongue. And I remember my speech language pathologist, she would have to, my time with the speech language pathologist, I was able to finally roll my R's, and it just felt like the biggest accomplishment. I just felt so on top of the world that here is something that I was never able to do. It was so hard, and no matter how many times I would try, I wouldn't be able to do it. And now I'm finally able to do it, and it's just so rewarding to experience working so hard towards something and then finally being able to do it. And this is something that I mention in my book, and this is something that continued later on with do like a special massage of the tongue to help loosen it so that I would be able to make the sound. Because if you are not able to pronounce one of the letters, then any word that has that letter, you won't be able to pronounce that word correctly. And I remember after I finished learning English as my second language and French as my third language, this feeling of, okay, I know this is hard. I know that I keep trying, but it's not happening right now. But I'm motivated to keep working at it because I want to have that feeling again. I want to feel that feeling of, that rewarding feeling of, I did it. I'm able to do it now.
Yeah, being successful after a struggle is much different than just easy success when it comes easy. And
throughout your journey, both the positive feelings of happiness and feeling proud and or worried. So it's all part of the journey, but in the end, it's so rewarding now to be able to share it with others.
That is very inspirational, and I think it's going to be so wonderful for the little ones. There's many kids out there that are maybe struggling, immigrants like you, or just struggling to learn another language. I think it's very motivational also for any parents that might have children with some speech delays, and a lot of parents will wonder if they're doing the right thing by introducing another language, and maybe they'll stop because of a speech delay. So you are a success story, and it's obviously challenging, but it is something that they can overcome. And you're so proud to be trilingual. You've written an entire book. You're an author about it.
The reason that it's such a large
age range,
thank you, is because depending on the level of the language that the child has, for example, students in primary grades, for example, in the French immersion program, they can read the book, as well as students who are in the mainstream program in learning English, but in the core French program, they can learn it once they are in their preteen age, because their French language skills will be strong enough to read it in French at that age. So it depends on the level of the language of the child. Yes, but it's also very. It's a great story to read even as an adult. So it's really for any ages, but I would say the target age would be from 4 to 12.
That's a really great age group, I think, as well. Kind of before those teenage years. Kids are around that age. But I think anyone who listens to this podcast would definitely be interested in this book. I know I personally am as a parent. I am curious. So you say English is your dominant language, but you're also a French teacher. So it's such an inspiration that you've gotten that good at these languages, right? That you're confident in teaching other kids. And I think being someone who's learned it yourself makes you a better teacher than, say, just the native that takes it for granted.
Absolutely.
I know from personal experience, I've taught ESL as a native English speaker, and I'm not a good ESL teacher. I feel better as a French teacher because I went through all of those steps, and I went through all those challenges of trying to understand this complicated grammar, memorizing the vocab, having to learn pronunciation. And that's not to say native teachers are not good. This is a debate I've had with friends and people before, but you bring a different perspective when you've had to learn it yourself.
I completely agree.
I'm curious, did your parents know French or English? Why did they choose Canada? Or did they end up learning along the way?
Those are great questions. So I am the only one in my family who speaks French. My parents are bilingual, but their dominant language is Russian. So at home we speak Russian. But my mom attended English immersion when she was growing up. So she learned English as a second language at school in Moscow. And my dad did not learn English until after we had immigrated, but neither of them speak French. So I'm the only French speaker in the family, which was also one of the challenges that I had to overcome because I was learning this new language at school. And I really loved learning it. And I wanted to, I knew I wanted to be a French teacher from a young age, but I had the challenge of living in an English-speaking environment. And no one in my family spoke the language. So I didn't have additional practice at home.
Yeah, you were kind of on your own.
Yes.
And then in class.
But they did see how much I enjoyed learning French. And I had a wonderful, wonderful French tutor who was also Russian speaking. I was with her for about 5 years, and she taught me French in addition to what I was learning at school. But it was definitely a challenge being the only person in the family and living in an English speaking environment and also learning this third language.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. But that's great that you had a tutor and that she was Russian speaking. I think even helps more because she can really relate to that when your Russian was, stronger. So how long would you say it took for English to take over? Like how long were you Russian dominant?
So until I came to Canada when I was 7 years old, I only spoke and heard Russian. And when we immigrated to Canada, Russian remained the language that we used most commonly at home. And English was used outside the home, like at school, and French was also used at school and during my private lessons with the French tutor. But because I had regular exposure to English. I heard it everywhere. I had to use it in order to communicate. It really accelerated my ability to become fluent in it because, to be frank, I didn't have much of a choice. And this is something that a lot of immigrant children or immigrants in general can attest to, that when you come to another country and you don't speak the language, you are in a way forced to learn it, because this is the only way for you to thrive in this new country, is to be able to communicate in the language that they speak here. So I do want to say that because I came here at 7 years old, and that was during the critical age that helps
for language
acquisition, that helps you to learn a lot faster. That was definitely something that helped. And for instance, my father, who, like I said, also did not speak any English until we came here, he was in his 40s when we immigrated. And for him, learning English took a lot longer. Becoming fluent, his journey took a lot longer than me, even though we both lived in this English-speaking environment. But I do feel that the age also helped me as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. That is very true. And then having school and friends, and I feel like children just have more contact in school than any adult in a best work case scenario, because adults just kind of put their heads down and do their work, whereas kids are constantly talking. And I just think, kids they're just very social.
Definitely.
So there's that advantage as well, that kids just want to communicate and play games and sing and do all those things that adults, we just kind of can be silent all day if we wanted to be. So when did you feel like you spoke each language fluently?
I felt like I needed to prove my level of proficiency to native speakers in English and in French. I felt that I was fluent in English when I was still in elementary school, but it took me longer to feel fluent in French. And it wasn't until I was in university specializing in French and I graduated with a certificate of bilingualism that I felt that I was fluent in French. And like I said before, I believe that fluency is a state of mind. No one has the right to decide whether or not you are fluent. It comes from within. And I also believe that
I completely agree with
ultimate fluency is not something that we can really ever attain, because language learning is a lifelong journey. So
it's constant. I'm a native English speaker and I'm constantly learning new words. I can't read a novel without coming up upon one word that's new.
It's definitely it's not a competition. It's not about how fast you learn it. And this is something that I tell the parents of my students. I find that I get a lot of questions of, okay, so how long will it take for my child to be fluent in French? And I have to explain that it's not really a set amount of time. It depends on how much effort you put into it. And exactly, there's so many factors.
Exposure.
Exactly, yes.
There's so many factors. I think that's such an unfortunate, I just think it's unfortunate that many people promote learn Korean in a week, or fluent in Spanish in 2 months, and all these programs that are 12 weeks to fluency in Japanese. But it's I don't know. There's just many publishers or bloggers, YouTubers, they like to put these numbers and times. I don't know why. I guess it sounds good. It's kind of like New Year's resolutions, like we were saying. Everyone wants to lose 20 pounds this year.
Yes, I guess it gets people's attention, but like we discussed earlier, it's important to set realistic expectations of yourself and make realistic goals. And it is important to set a timeline for certain things, but to have a general timeline of, okay, by the time I'm this, I want to be fluent. It's not at all how it works. And motivation is one of the most important factors in determining your success when learning a new language. And my motivation was my love of learning and my desire to be independent when it comes to communicating. And this all stemmed from my experience in my early childhood, not being able to communicate independently, clearly. And then when I immigrated to Canada, I faced this challenge again. I was not able to communicate independently in English because I didn't speak the language. And I didn't want to have someone asking questions for me. I wanted to ask them myself. So that was definitely something that was a huge motivator for me, was this desire to be independent when it came to communicating in any language that I learned. And this is something that took a lot of time. But in the end, if you work hard at it and you stay motivated, you stay focused, in the end, you will be successful. But exactly.
Yeah. And especially if you really want it, then you will work towards that end goal, no matter how long it takes to get there.
You can't set
so yeah, motivation is huge.
A date on fluency.
Yeah, you can have your some goals and things you'd like to get to, but you don't want to set yourself up for failure and then feel bad about yourself. That's not what we're aiming for. So like you said before, we should enjoy it, do things that you enjoy, so that it doesn't have to feel like so much work. It doesn't have to be worksheets and packets.
First,
did you ever feel like you were losing some skills in any of the languages and you had to bolster them in a certain way?
Sometimes I feel like I'm losing my Russian. For over a decade after we immigrated, I had daily practice writing and reading in Russian because I would email my grandparents on a daily basis and I would read their responses. So I had that regular practice in Russian for reading and writing. And obviously I spoke Russian at home, so I would be listening and speaking it as well.
Okay. Were you able to take any books back, with you guys when you immigrated?
Yes, we do have Russian books at home, but I find that the older I got, the less I read in Russian. And it is true what they say, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, something else takes the place. It's not that your mind went blank, it's that English filled in, French filled in.
Exactly. But I am still able to read and write in Russian, but not as well as I did when I came here. In terms of my English, I feel that it is ever evolving. Even though I am fluent in all three languages, I am in the process of learning all three languages. Language learning is a journey, a lifelong journey. I still feel that I feel like every day there's always an opportunity to improve your language proficiency. One of the ways that I have been keeping up with my French skills is I have just completed my Master's of Education in Modern Languages Education in French.
Félicitations! Congratulations.
So it was a 2.5-year program, and this book that we're going to discuss later on, Trilingual Me, Trilingue, is my thesis project for my master's. And now that I have finished my master's, I am worried that my French will start to suffer because even though I teach French at school, I teach at an elementary school level. So it's not quite the same as, so I am going to hopefully level of language that I've been using the past 2.5 years while completing my master's, find a way for me to continue to practice my French skills so that I can not lose my level of proficiency in French when it comes to speaking with someone who is above elementary school age.
Yeah, I feel that frustration. Even with high school, it's like you need other
Yes,
adults,
definitely.
peers,
Mhm,
colleagues, people your
mhm.
age, for sure. How is it finding French material in Toronto? Do you get TV and things? Is it easy to get materials from Quebec,
Quebec is so from Toronto. So
or is it really English dominant? I'm not really sure
it
what
is
the
very English
environment.
dominant in Toronto. We do have French channels on TV, but very limited. Quebec City is about a 10-hour drive from here, and Montreal is about a 6-hour drive. I know this very well
Yeah.
because I spent 2 summers in Montreal while I was doing my Master's of Education. I had courses in Montreal during the summer. That was an amazing way for me to practice my French because it was everywhere in Montreal. So it is very French speaking, and it
Hmm.
was great to be able to be in a French speaking environment. So, because it is not that far away, my visits to Montreal, hopefully,
It's funny that you say not that far because I believe for me in Massachusetts, Montreal is only five
oh,
hours. So I'm actually closer, even though I'm not in Canada.
well,
Or it's like 5.5. So we're probably pretty similarly
well,
distant,
hopefully,
which
maybe
just,
we can meet up
yeah,
one day in Montreal once it is safe again to travel.
uh,
Um,
that
I
would be
think
great. I would love that. I love
I
Montreal. I
do
love
too.
Quebec in general.
It's beautiful.
Hmm.
So hopefully, now that my master's program is over, one of the ways that I hope to continue practicing my French is to surround myself with French speakers. And unfortunately, there are obviously French speakers in Toronto, but not as many as in Montreal. So but in terms of, you asked about the French materials, how easy it is to
Hmm.
find. I would say that you do need to put in some effort in order to find French resources and French
Hmm.
materials.
Sounds similar. Like I can find things here, but you kind of have to
Yeah.
search. And it's, America is definitely English
Yes.
dominant. So it's probably pretty similar,
Here.
you and I, even though you're in
Hmm.
Canada and I'm
Hmm.
down here. Well, maybe we can create a group of people who speak pretty advanced French to, do some Zoom calls or
That's a
something.
great idea.
Because the winter is going to be long, and I'm also in the same boat. I did a master's in
Oh,
French.
wonderful.
It's been 7 years. So I graduated in 2013. So it's been a while, and I'm not teaching in a high school anymore. So I don't have daily contact with
Hmm.
colleagues and students. So I'm also really
Hmm.
missing just having intellectual conversations in French because I'm trying to speak it with my kids, but that's nothing. It's
It's
like,
not the
do you
same.
want some milk? Okay. No, it's not. It's just like your
Hmm.
job. So if anybody listening wants to have some conversations with us in French, look out for that on
Hmm.
Instagram. So Ina and I are both on there, and we will maybe try and get something to happen, even if it's monthly, like a kind of like a book club or something. I don't
Sounds
know.
great.
Yeah, there's something we can do because I'm also dying to have more French in my life. How do you keep a balance do you feel like you're keeping a good balance with three languages? Do you struggle to keep the balance? Like,
I try my best to keep a balance, but it is never equal.
yeah, I agree. It's a
Yeah.
fallacy that a bilingual or trilingual person is going to be, 50-50 or 33,
Yes.
33, 30. Like, that's just not how
No,
it works at
I
all.
think that the most important thing is that you have the desire to keep up with your languages and that you have ways or strategies to
Hmm.
do that
And
and that
that
you
you do
do them.
them. That's my
Exactly. Yes.
struggle.
But it's much easier said than done. But I do feel that it has
Hmm.
to come from within. In the end, if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to do it. And this goes for anything that we do, whether it's working out.
Yes, yeah. Well, New Year's is coming, so that is going to be a topic on everyone's mind.
So,
What do I want to
so
improve?
I feel
It's true.
that you need to have realistic expectations. That's also very important. Realistic expectations of what you can do, and I also feel that it's important to not be so hard on yourself. That you're
Hmm.
you're trying your best, and there are things that sometimes is out of our control. For instance, like we talked earlier, we both live in an English dominant environment.
Hmm.
And although we are looking for ways to practice our other languages, it is definitely harder for us. So I feel that we need to have realistic expectations, but also not be so hard on ourselves if we do find that we are perhaps not as fluent anymore in a language that we once were. Not to have any negative feelings of failure or discouragement, because like you said, it's
Well, my previous guest, Amy, was saying how each language is like a plant. So it's living, it's changing. So, kind of looking at it that way, it's like you have to kind of water this plant, you have to take care of it.
Yeah, having a visual really
All right.
helps.
Yeah, I find apps and things, even just having like a streak on Duolingo, or I take a Polish class on Saturdays, and it's always at the same time, like it's 2 p.m. on Saturday, and it just, because I have that in my schedule, like it's non-negotiable
That's
now.
great.
So I feel like if we can make those for ourselves, like I will read this book when I wake up, or I will study this. It's just, you have to like put it in your schedule.
That's true. Very true. Yeah.
And like you were saying, I think we need to be realistic. We have to actually look at what our days look like. So for me, like I have 2 toddlers at home, but if I can be realistic and say, okay, if I have 10 minutes, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to read this book. Keeping it realistic is very important. All right, well, let's get into the book because I want to hear all about it, even though I will be ordering a copy. Please
Thank you so much for your support of the book. I'm very excited to talk about it and to have everyone be able to finally read it. I started working on this book back in November of last year, so it's been a year in the making. And I'm so excited to finally have it, have my vision become a reality. The book, Trilingual Me, Moi Trilingue, is a dual language children's book. It is written in English and in French. And it is the story, the incredibly true story of my personal journey of becoming trilingual. Actually, because a lot of people don't know the full story. People know that I am a French teacher. They know that I was born in Moscow and that I immigrated to Canada, but there's a lot to the story that a lot of people don't know, and is very exciting and yet also a little bit nerve-wracking to be so open with everyone about my story. But
I can imagine. But I think it'll be worth it. You're going to touch a lot of people.
I wanted to share it with everyone, especially in a children's book format, because as a teacher, as a French teacher, I see a lot of students who are not motivated to learn languages. And there's a lot of statements that I hear that, oh, I can't do it, or it's too hard, or I'm just not a language person. And I feel that by sharing my own story, that it will inspire those who might not be very motivated and that think that it's too challenging to learn a language, let alone 2, let alone 3. So I'm really excited to finally share my story with everyone.
I think that's such a wonderful reason. And you're so right that we have, even at a young age, people can have such closed mentality, like, oh, I'm just not good at languages. And it's not just languages. I'm not, I'm not a math person. Oh, I don't like science. And it's so easy to kind of put yourself in a box. I don't know how to cook. Well, you could. Everything's possible to learn, right?
And it's important to be open with your own experience, because if I had those types of thoughts and if I said those types of words, then I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be a core French teacher. I wouldn't do my Master's of Education. I wouldn't be publishing a dual language children's book if I said, oh, it's too hard. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I'm just not good at this. And what you will learn in the book is that I had more than enough reasons to just give up and not believe in myself or just not pursue language learning. And it turned out to be, this is my passion. My passion is teaching second language to others.
That's a great message, because what could be scaring you, could be the thing that becomes who you're going to be. So like when you were a 7 and 8-year-old, coming over here, you might have been scared. Like, I have to learn English, now I have to learn French, and now look at you. Now you're got a master's in French, you're teaching, you're dominant, you've got such command of these
This is
3
actually
languages that, like, could you have imagined when you were 7 that this is where
absolutely
you would
not.
be?
And this is something that I talk about in the book. I talk about the feelings that I felt on that airplane when I was immigrating, when I was flying over. And one of the quotes from the book is, on her long flight to Canada on a big airplane, she wondered how she would fit English inside of her brain. So this is something that I still to this day remember, these feelings of, how am I going to do this? This is so scary. And if I had these negative thoughts, how different my life would be if I said, this is too hard, I can't do it, no.
Yeah, it's so true, because when you look at, let's say, like the English language is this humongously, this huge thing, and it's so rich, and it goes from like baby talk to Shakespeare, and that when you look at the whole thing, it's this monstrosity that you're like, how am I ever going to conquer this? But when you break it down day by day, I feel the same way. Like, if I want to learn a new language, you can be so overwhelmed, like, how am I going to learn 20,000 new words or whatever? I don't even know what the number would be to have like a basic conversation. But it's super intimidating if you kind of are taking it in full view,
especially
not breaking it down.
Since my first language was Russian, which had a completely different alphabet from English, and a lot of different grammatical structures to English. This was also something that was a challenge for me, because
it didn't translate perfect. Like with French and English, I'm sure you see that things can translate almost word for word.
I noticed when I was learning French was the similarities between English and French, like le moi mi, and the alphabet is the same. Like, oh, this is great.
Even just where things go in the sentence.
But I will say that knowing Russian also really helped me with my French acquisition, because French and Russian have a lot of similar rules. For example, we have tu and vous in French, and ti and vi in Russian. Yep. Same with the masculine and feminine nouns, both in French and Russian, which are not. It's not the case in English. We just have the pronoun you. Whether it's singular or plural, formal or informal, and our nouns are not masculine and feminine in English. So
does Russian use like the vous form? Is
yes,
that also
it's
plural,
the same
like
rule. If you're talking to someone, if you're talking to one person and you're addressing them in a formal way, you would also in Russian use vous. Like in French, we would say vous. It's exactly the same.
Oh wow! I didn't know that, because Polish does not.
Yeah,
do that.
So I definitely found the more languages I learned, I found more and more similarities between, if not one language and the other language that I knew, and that definitely really helped me. And this is something that I talk about in the book as well.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I feel like the more we know, the easier it is to make connections. And English and French have a lot of shared vocab and things of that nature, because the Normans conquered England for like 300 years. But then English, I've never studied German, but like English and German, English is Germanic, so people say there's a lot of similarities there in the Scandinavian languages. And just looking at them, you can see it looks like English a lot. I have not studied any of those languages, but I do think it is very fascinating. Have you studied any other Slavic languages?
For now it's just Russian, English, and French that I learned. But I never say never. So we'll see what the future holds in terms of my language acquisition.
Well, it's not like you've been busy or anything. So just writing a book before the age of 30,
Thank you.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think this is just so wonderful. And I can't wait to get it for myself and for my kids. My son will just be hitting 4 next year. So
that's great. Perfect.
I'm curious, do you use all 3 languages in a typical day? Like, do you still talk to your parents every day? Are you able to fit French in every day?
I would say that although it is not an equal amount of time throughout the day that I use each 3 language, I do use all three every day. I still see my parents on a weekly basis, so I speak Russian with them when I am at home. English is spoken at work and with my friends. And French is also spoken when I'm teaching my students French. And also, up until recently, I also spoke French during my sessions during my master's program.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that every day I speak 3 languages, but the amount of time I spend speaking each language, that varies.
That's great, though. Do you have any good resources or things that you use in your classroom that would maybe help some parents that
I get this question a lot from the parents of the students that I teach French. And
yeah.
I think that as long as the child is enjoying the activity, there really isn't a best resource. So whether it's a Duolingo app, whether it's watching your favorite show in French, whether it's going on a trip to Quebec, reading a book that they enjoy in French, the important thing is that they are in control of their learning.
That's wonderful. That's such good advice that I think a lot of us need to hear as parents, because we want to really like, oh, I need to help them. I need to find something, buy something, do something. And it's like, let the child pick. If they're happy,
exactly,
then it's going to work. Do you have any memories of like trips or traditions that you are able to partake in because you're a trilingual speaker?
Oh, that's a great question. So, trip that I have taken thus far, I still have big plans ahead. But so far, the most memorable trip would be, I would say the most memorable. A few summers ago, I taught English as a second language in Taiwan. And that was a very special experience for me, because having been an ESL student about 20 years ago myself, to now being able to be on the other side, being the teacher who is teaching English as a second language, I felt that was very, very special. And I'm planning to hopefully be able to teach abroad again, this time in Japan, because I had such a wonderful experience teaching ESL abroad when I was in Taiwan, and I would really love to do it again in another country, perhaps. I find that it's something really special to be able to, it feels like a full circle moment to be able to see not only how much I've progressed in terms of my language acquisition and in terms of my journey, but also now to be able to use what I learned, what I experienced, and apply it to help others learn the language.
You're paying it forward. Like somebody taught you, now you're teaching. That there is a very nice circle with teaching. I think many teachers, we stay in it because there's so much reward in like seeing kids learn, seeing them struggle, and then realize. And it's not that we teach for the pay, as all teachers know, at least not where I teach. But yeah, I think teaching is a very
I couldn't agree more.
career. And being able to travel, I mean, ESL is in demand all over the world right now. We're very lucky to be English speakers because you can really, you can go anywhere and teach English. And even, I taught in France, and they usually like to have the British accent, but I was teaching at the elementary level there. So they were like, it's fine. Like, they'll take anyone because they're just doing introductory.
See. Yeah,
like,
France is
numbers.
Somewhere I have yet to visit, but it's definitely at the top of the list.
So before we end, I myself, and I'm sure lots of our listeners would love to know, is there a way to pre-order the book? And also let us know how we can find you on the internet so that we can keep following you.
I have an Instagram page for where you can get all of the information about my book, Trilingual Me, Moi Trilingue. My handle is trilingualme.moi trilingue.
And I'll put that in the show notes.
I'm so excited to finally be able to share my story with everyone. And I really appreciate you supporting the book, and I can't wait to hear what you think of it once you read it.
Yes, I will definitely let you know. We will be putting it on the
Thank you
page
so much.
on the Future is Bilingual Instagram page as well. Yes, it's such a pleasure. So thank you. Thank you so much for all of your time today and telling us so much about your story and how you've become trilingual, and just you've been such a wealth of information that I hope everyone has gotten as much out
My
of
pleasure.
your interview as I have. Yeah, the pleasure was all mine. So yes, I will add all of those links into the show notes for anyone who is curious. And yeah, please come follow both of us on Instagram. We hope you guys stay well, stay safe. Could you teach us a word or a phrase in one or more of your languages?
First of all, I just want to say I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. So I'm going to teach you how to say thank you in the 3 languages that I speak. So in Russian, thank you is spasiba. And then thank you, we know in English. And in French, it's merci.
Well, merci beaucoup. How do you say thank you very much in Russian? Большое спасибо. Okay, I've never actually heard that full version. I've heard spasiba, but never anything more. So thank you, spasiba. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and we will definitely be keeping in touch. If anyone does want to speak some French with the two of us, reach out. We'll create some sort of a Zoom something, because I would love to just have adults I can speak French with. I'm also in a bubble here of English.
Thank you so much. Большое спасибо. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
C'était un plaisir.
Merci.
Le futur est bilingue.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you to Ina for being willing to be my guest and for speaking to us so openly about her story. Thank you as well to Amy, who submitted the recording of her daughter and herself saying the future is bilingual in their native language, which is French. Merci beaucoup. So if you don't know, the podcast recently turned 1 year old, and that happened right around my own birthday as well. So on Instagram, I asked people if they could please submit themselves saying the future is bilingual in their native language. And Amy is the first one to do that. So thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. It's perfect for this episode because Ina and I talked a lot about learning French and loving being a French teacher and all that good stuff. So if you enjoyed this episode, as always, I would really appreciate it if you could share it with a friend, take a screenshot and post it to your Instagram story and tag me so that I can see it and thank you. It would just really help us to grow our community. And if you're interested in submitting just a 5-second blurb saying the future is bilingual in your native language, I would really love that. If you do not follow me on Instagram, if you do follow Instagram, you can find it in the bio. There's a link directly to how to do that. If you don't have Instagram, you can email me at tfibpodcast@gmail.com, and I will send you the link there. It's very easy to do. It's just you click the link and then you press record, send it. Just saying the future is bilingual. You don't have to say what language it is or anything like that. I would just really appreciate it to make the podcast more multilingual and just have some fun hearing some other voices on the podcast. So again, thank you guys so much. Stay well, be safe, and we'll catch you soon. Bye.